This is your all things Minnesota sports, all bad news, all sad news, all happy news, all wacky news sports podcast. I'm Jackson.
I'm Matt, and what you said there, it's typically sad and wacky news, but we're moving into spring here, so we're adding to the Twins discussion to the docket. We're underway opening day just about a week ago, so we got Timberwolves, Wild, and Twins news today. Plus, unfortunately, we'll be touching on some Vikings too. Some shit went down this week that we definitely have to discuss, and we'll get into that first, Jackson, because it's probably the biggest news out of Minnesota this week. 2020 first round pick Jeff Gladney turned himself in Texas this week for assaulting his girlfriend. He currently faces up to 2 to 10 years in prison if he's convicted. The woman said that she was punched because Gladney he wanted to read her text messages and she wasn't letting him, hitting the accuser with closed fist, choking her, and dragging her by her hair while driving with her outside his vehicle. So not looking good for Jeff Gladney. If this shit is true, which I mean is 99% likely to be true, the man turned himself in. But this shit is true. Jeff Gladney is one of the biggest scumbags on earth and never deserves to play another snap in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean the Vikings. He won't play another snap with the Minnesota Vikings. The Wilfs, a zero tolerance rule. They will not allow him to be a Viking if he somehow is able to play in the NFL again, which is highly unlikely. Again, all allegedly until he's proven guilty, which a lot of evidence and obviously turning himself in does not seem likely that it is untrue. So Jeff Gladney, horrible human being, and yet another not to like, I mean, not to bring it to football, but just another shitty thing that happens to the Vikings. I mean, that's a first round pick. That's a waste of a first round pick, and now we're a cornerback open spot.
Yeah, it's everyone's getting pissed at the Vikings, like for not releasing him yet. But like
It has to be true.
they literally can't release him because this is what happens if the Vikings release Jeff Gladney, and Gladney is not guilty for this thing. Jeff Gladney can sue the Vikings for defamation of character for releasing him before anything was actually proven in the court of law. So they literally have to wait until they come out with a press release saying Jeff Gladney is a scumbag. He's no longer a member of the Minnesota Vikings. So we have to wait for that process to go down. But it's looking like Jeff Gladney will no longer be a Minnesota Viking, no longer be a Minnesota Viking or in the NFL. But yeah, and shitty person, shitty move by Gladney, and like you said, obviously it's people first. But like getting into the football side of it too, because we need to touch on that being a sports podcast. Being a football podcast, Jeff Gladney, he wasn't our best rookie corner in 2020. Obviously, Cameron Dantzler proved that he looked more like the first round pick than Jeff Gladney did. But Jeff Gladney wasn't bad by any means. Maybe he got it started a little bit slower, but he still seemed like he could be a competent cornerback in our defensive room. So, I mean, losing a player that maybe had the potential that Gladney did does hurt on the field as well. It's just tough because it looked like we had one of the depthiest cornerback rooms in the entire NFL, and then Jeff Gladney turns out to be an absolute asshole. And yeah, it's still depthy, but Gladney not being on the team obviously hurts our defense.
And then sadly, I think everybody knows that when he is convicted and when it's proven that this happened, very little jail time will be served. I mean, you got people like Tyreek Hill in the NFL still. Can't think of any others right now, but just players who they've been proven to do stuff like this, and they're not in jail. And it's just the celebrity treatment, and he deserves to be in jail for the rest of his for 2 to 10 years. But very unlikely that he will serve
A
that.
lot of shit going down in Texas because Gladney, this happened in Texas. Then you got the Deshaun Watson allegations. Now, 22 women have came out against Deshaun Watson. That situation's not looking good for him. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
just
he's not getting traded now.
no, that definitely Deshaun Watson's focus has now shifted from I hate the Texans, get me out of this franchise to
Can I
please
play
just get
again?
me out of these sexual assault cases because now they're racking up. It's over 20 and it's not looking good for Deshaun Watson.
No, and yeah, we'll see what happens, and we'll keep updated.
But yeah, the
But
Gladney
it's
news opens up the slight possibility. People
oh
are starting to
no,
speculate that the cornerback happy front office could be considering a cornerback in the first round now that they lost Jeff Gladney. What do you think about that?
it's gonna be that one. That
Patrick
LSU kid
Surtain.
didn't declare, but yeah, Patrick Surtain. It's gonna be Patrick Surtain, and they were looking for. No, I mean, this is probably bad to say, but they were looking for a reason to draft a cornerback, and they finally found one, and
they
it's inevitable at this point.
they pinned a crime on Jeff Gladney just so they could go get Patrick Surtain. If you don't
Yeah,
know, our coach, our new D-backs coach was worked on the Alabama staff with Patrick Surtain. So
yeah.
there's a connection there. I don't see us picking a cornerback
No,
in
no,
the
no.
first round. I really
But
don't. But we've said that
I
before, and
wouldn't
it's
be
happened.
surprised. I wouldn't be
We've
not
said that before,
would not be
and
surprised.
it's happened. So
Yeah.
before we move off the Vikings here, I want to touch quickly on our guard situation. I know we've touched on it on recent podcasts too, but as the weeks go on and the Vikings continue to not sign a guard outside of the worst guard in the league, Dakota Dozier, the options are starting to dwindle. We lost Austin Blythe last week. We lost Forrest Lamp, I believe, yesterday or today. So the options are getting limited, and it's looking more like we're not going to sign. We're not going to sign a guard, and we're just going to have to figure it out in the draft. I'm guessing we're going to allocate a lot of our draft picks to offensive line. It's looking like the plan is now, because if you look at our starting offensive line right now, it is one of the worst things you've ever seen. So the Vikings, I mean, I hope to God they have a plan. As we've seen in years past, maybe they don't have a plan because it hasn't gotten better, but we hope to God they got a plan, and we can at least send out a semi-competent line in front of Kirk next season, because if I was Kirk, I'd just be pissed off at this point. Like, you've signed no offensive help for him this offseason. It's all been defense, and Kirk's been nice enough to not shit on our offensive line the whole time he's been here. So we got to give him some help eventually. Hopefully that comes in the
Well,
draft, or if we go the trade route.
and to add to that, it's not looking good in the draft right now. Obviously the Jets trading Sam Darnold to the Panthers. The Panthers have the number 3 pick, correct?
Oh, Panthers have 8. 3 is held by the Niners.
Okay, Panthers have number 8, but they were probably going to go for a player like Trey Lance, possibly a quarterback for the future. Now it's nearly 100% that they're probably going to go for an offensive lineman now. So there's one more off the board, most likely.
Yeah, so quarterback's basically locked in 1, 2, 3. The order of it, we don't know. It's basically consensus that it's going to be Lawrence, Wilson at 2, and then at 3, it's split between whether it's going to be Mac Jones or Justin Fields. But yeah, so after that, teams that need a quarterback, I don't really know, because it came out that at number 4, Atlanta possibly wanting a quarterback. Arthur Smith, the head coach now, does not want a quarterback, and the GM does. But they're looking to move back, which is a sign that they're not really looking to get a quarterback, because if they were, you're not moving back. You're getting the quarterback where you can get them. So I think they go 1, 2, 3, and then it's kind of just to pick and choose from there of other players, whether hopefully for the Vikings case, we get 4 or 5 5 would be ideal quarterbacks drafted before us, because that just leaves us a plentiful amount of position picks that we could take. But it's still a little bit unknown after 1, 2, 3. So we'll figure out how it goes from there. But yeah, Vikings offensive line, definitely a point of emphasis for the rest of the offseason. If we're running into week 1 with Dakota Dozier, I might die.
As it always is. And we'll move right along to another Minnesota sports team, the Timberwolves, and they had a win the other night, but it came at I think it was the game before that or this game, but it came at a cost as Malik Beasley got hurt. But this just raises the question: will the core ever play together? The D'Lo, Malik, and Cat, and Anthony
So
Edwards now.
So Timberwolves fans, we really don't ask for much. I mean, the majority of us aren't even that pissed at how bad the Wolves are every year. Like it's surprising to me how optimistic Wolves fans are, despite our constant like playing like shit. So all Wolves fans ever ask is that they want the core to play together. Who's our core? It's D'Lo, it's Malik, it's Anthony Edwards, it's Karl Anthony Towns. It's quickly becoming Jaden McDaniels in that mix too. But no, like they haven't played together. This soon, it seems like a curse. As soon as D'Lo gets back, right, we're gonna have all four of those guys together. As soon as he gets back, Malik has an injury. He's out basically for the rest of the season, if not the rest of the season. So these four haven't really got to play together outside of games like 1 and 2 this season. So which we won. So the core doesn't look like it's going to play together this year. I mean, hopefully we can add to it next year, and hopefully we can get everyone healthy at the same time. But at this point, that just seems like something that's too much to ask for, because someone's always injured, and we just can't get everyone healthy at the same time.
Well, at this point, you almost don't want them together. I mean, to the end of the year, one, you don't want a risk of further injury, and then two, you almost want to lose a little bit more. But another question, I mean, Cat is back. He's finally playing again more with D'Lo and Malik, but now there's not. How's he played recently?
He's been balling out. Like Cat has played some of the best basketball that he's played in his entire career. I know he's been vocal all year about him being a changed player, him not really get a quote this week about he's not stat chasing. Like he's got to the point where his stats show that he's a very good player in the NBA. Now the only thing on his mind is proving that he can win as an NBA player, which is really good to hear from Cat, because a lot of people had those questions about him, and I think it's gotten through to Cat that like he's never going to be considered a great player unless his teams can win. So I think he's kind of locking into that mode, and hopefully as Cat has been improving, the rest of the team can improve too, because Cat has become an extremely good passer with Finch's coach. Like Finch is actually using him as a facilitator. But what the Wolves can't do right now is anyone that Cat passes to out of his double teams, nobody can shoot. So D'Lo back obviously helps that, but like people not being able to shoot has really hurt Cat. His assist numbers would be a lot higher if he had shooters around him. I think that's going to be a point of emphasis for the Wolves this offseason, is just add shooters around Cat. So when he passes out of his double teams that he gets like every single time he touches the ball, people can knock down shots. So Cat's been playing very good. Hopefully he can carry this into the rest of the season and into next season as well. Hopefully when we have a more constructed roster and a healthier roster as well.
Yeah, that's definitely more important. So the Timberwolves need to lose consistently to the end of the year, you could say. But what are their top 3 lottery odds at this moment?
So this is how the lottery is broken down. So the bottom 3 teams in the NBA, they all have the same chance to get in the top 3. So if you're the worst team, second worst team, third worst team, you have a 14% chance at number 1, a 13.4% chance at number 2, and a 12.7% chance at number 3. So this, just doing quick math here, it's about 40% chance that you stay in the top 3 if you're one of the worst 3 teams. But if you fall out of that top 3, it's looking like a 35% chance. So the further you get out of top 3, the smaller your chances are of keeping the top 3 pick, which the Wolves obviously need, because if we're not in the top 3, the Warriors get our selection. Currently, we're sitting in a pretty good spot. We're the worst team in the league, and we're 5 games. I don't know how to say this. We're 5 games worse than the team in that's 4th worst, which we don't want to be. We don't want to be lower than 3rd worst. So as long as we can win less then God, as long as we don't win 5 more games than the like Orlando Magic or Washington Wizards, we will stay in that bottom 3 spot, which is where we want. So the Wolves have some room. They have some room to play well in the final stretch. We can play well without having to get super nervous. But maybe in the final week, if we're playing pretty well, winning 50% of our games, it might come down to the stretch. But we can take some Wolves wins here and be happy about it. We just don't want us to win like more than 50% of our games, because then it might get a little bit scary.
Yeah, makes sense. And one more thing, Jaden McDaniels, he's looking to be the steal of draft, isn't he? I mean, he's been excellent. I've heard offensively and defensively, he's been shut down almost.
So Chris Finch is one of those coaches that is like very reluctant to give his players like a lot of praise in press conferences. But you can
Yeah,
tell he loves
I heard
Jaden
his quote
McDaniels.
last week, I think
He
it
was
was.
talking about Jaden McDaniels, basically already saying that he is the best defensive player on this team. And the crazy thing about it, Jaden McDaniels is over 19, 20 years old, and he's like 6'10", 100, he's like 180 pounds. He's not that small, but I'll look up his weight here. But Jaden McDaniels has not even close to grown into his body yet, which is very scary because he's 6'10", 185 pounds. That he's like so slim, and he's already one of our best defensive players. When Jaden McDaniels keeps that athleticism, grows into his body, and gets into his prime, Jaden McDaniels can be like one of the true lockdown defenders in the NBA, which is absolutely scary. And the best part of this is Jaden McDaniels isn't just a defensive player. He's got offensive skill too. I mean, that was one of his like biggest potential things coming into the NBA. Jaden McDaniels has like actual dribble moves at 6'10", and he can actually create his own shot. So once he continues to develop that too, Jaden McDaniels has a very, very, very high ceiling on both ends, which could be huge as the power forward next to Cat.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah.
It's this. I know you hear this a lot. I know you're not a big Wolf fan. You hear this from most fans a lot. Like, we are excited about the future, and usually that future does not come to actually be. But I think that we have a good core for right now. I'm not the biggest D'Lo fan, which you know, but I think that the Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Jaden McDaniels core is looking, that the sites are looking up, and it's looking like those 3 could be some big players for us down the road. So the Wolves still suck, but
I,
we might be showing improvements here sooner rather than later.
well, just being a sports fan, you have this core who's young. I mean, Cat's still young, and he's one of the
Yeah.
best players in the league. And obviously, D'Lo, he's talented in some sorts of the games. In Anthony Edwards looks to be probably the most talented player in this draft class for the next decade. If they do get a top 3 pick, maybe let's say they get one, that's a heck. I mean, who are they going to get with one? That one kid
Cade
that's supposed to be the next
Cunningham is
Ben
likely to go
Simmons,
1. Yeah.
and that's a good 5. I mean, Malik
he'll be back next year, and this is going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah, so we're really excited about the Wolves here. Next season is going to be hopefully much better than this season, as it can't get much worse. But we'll move into Jackson's Minnesota Wild. We'll start with Wild sweep the Vegas Golden Knights. This is a huge thing for the Wild. But then we go right into play Colorado, and the Avs probably just kick the shit out of us. So, and the question has to be asked: as much as we hate them, are the Avalanche the best team in the league?
Well, I hate the Avalanche so much that I wore a Colorado hat today. I did not think of that at all. But I should switch hats and put tape on this or something. But yeah, the Avs are the best team in the league. They have the best record. They have the most points. They're the top of the league. They're the most skilled team. They're not the most deep team. They're not going to win the Stanley Cup this year. And Philip Grubauer is not a consistent great goalie. But yeah, they're the most skilled team right now, and their defense is unfair. They have so many young prospects as well coming up. I mean, Alex Newhook is the first to come to mind right now. I mean, Jamie Bowen Byram, he's a young defenseman. He's incredible. And then obviously I think Cale Makar is a top 3 defenseman in the league. So, and obviously McKinnon, and their power play is the best, and they have what it takes to finish the year with the top record. So yeah, I think they're the best team in the league right now. The Wild, very confusing team right now. They own the Knights. It doesn't matter who they have playing. They have 3 players out. Marcus Foligno, Zach Parise, Marcus Foligno with I believe an ankle or somewhere in the legs. Got hit with a puck a couple weeks ago, but now he's skating. Hopefully we'll be coming back in the upcoming weeks. We have Parise back tonight off of the COVID list, and then looks like Matt Zuccarello is suiting up again tonight. But now we're missing Bukestead. So we just don't have a healthy team right now. And without a healthy team, you can't beat the Avalanche. We beat the Avalanche with a healthy team. So I think we can compete with them. I don't want to see them come playoffs. But yeah, they're a very skilled team. They have the best line in hockey, and McKinnon. They have Mika Rantanen, and then Gabriel Landeskog, obviously. So it's a very skilled team.
And it's become pretty evident in the last couple of weeks that Cam Talbot is the goalie number 1 for us, which we brought him in to be. But as a 33-year-old goalie in the league, he's obviously aging. Are the Wild overusing Talbot, and should they be playing Kakinen more, or at least giving Talbot some more breaks, as they've been using him quite a bit?
Yeah. So what happened in Edmonton when he was having such a good year, and then it just kind of ended very poorly for Cam Talbot a couple years ago. They overused him like the Wild are doing right now, and he had a lot of shots against the Avalanche a couple days ago, and he didn't play bad, but he didn't have his best game. I mean, he's kept the Wild in the last couple of games. I'd say he stole 3 of the 4 last wins for the Wild. And sometimes, he can't do that every game. And that's why, Capo's a reliable second string goaltender. So I think he should be the one. Cam Talbot's going tonight again, and I think Capo should be the one going in, not because Capo is better. Cam's the number 1 goalie, and you need to give him breaks. He's gonna get worn out. He's 35 years old. So I do think the Wild are currently overusing him right now, and I hope that it's not going to hurt come playoffs.
So the Wild obviously sitting 3rd in the West Division right now. What spot do you expect, or what spot do you want the Wild to be by the postseason?
Yeah, so I was talking about this the other day, and I think the one spot that the Wild need to be in, well, I shouldn't say need. They're gonna, obviously every team's gonna want to be the 1-2 spot. I think the Wild are best suited at number 3. If the standings stay where they're gonna come playoff time, we got Colorado first, the Knights second, us third, and then right now it's Arizona 4th, but I don't know how steady that will be. Blues are struggling mightily right now, but I see the Minnesota going up against the Knights the best. So if the Knights retain the 2nd spot, we probably go up against the Knights, and we own the Knights. So I want them the first round more than the Avalanche. So the 3rd spot is where I would probably want the Wild to sit. I don't see them moving up. They could go on a stretch where they lose a couple and then move down, but I really don't see. They're up. The Wild have 48 points, and the 4th place Coyotes have 43. So the Wild have to go on a significant losing streak, and the Coyotes would have to go on a significant winning streak. So I think the Wild are gonna finish 3rd, and I think the Avalanche are gonna finish 1st. So I think the Wild and the Knights will have their first playoff match against each other.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting second half of the season for the Wild. We'll move into a team that also has some postseason aspirations. Minnesota Twins season underway. Some high expectations for the Twins this year after a good season last year that ended very poorly in the playoffs. But he was out the first 3 games because we played NL team and the Brewers. But Nelson Cruz has played in 2 games now. He has 3 home runs. The man's 40 years old. He had a grand slam in his first game back.
Yeah.
Nelson Cruz is amazing.
Same at bat.
I'm convinced that Nelson Cruz is going to be hitting 40 home runs when he's 50 years old.
Yeah, and he's the best DH in baseball. He's the
unreal.
Best DH. He might be the best DH of the 5 years, maybe the decade. Obviously David Ortiz would like a word with that, but Nelson Cruz is an incredibly smart hitter. I mean, the grand slam, I don't know if you were probably watching.
Yeah,
He hit 2 home runs in that same at bat. Just one went barely foul.
absolutely
And then
crazy.
the
Like
next at bat, he slobbers one home.
Nelson
And
Cruz isn't lucking into these home runs. He is such watching
no,
him at the plate. He is such a like good hitter, and everything he makes contact with is great contact, and has so much oomph on it that it's just like Nelson Cruz, if he continues to have this plate discipline that he has and continues to make contact like he's making contact, yeah, he's gonna have another fantastic year.
I think if I don't know how many. I mean, I didn't look ahead of the schedule, but if it was all DHs around the league, there was no stupid pitching hitters, but Nelson Cruz would have 40 home runs this year. But um, he's not going to play every game because sometimes we play the NL team in the NL home. So Nelson Cruz is one of the best hitters ever. I think that's well known. He's been doing this for decades. I mean, he
And
came
the
into the
and the
league in
thing is,
'98.
he has gotten better as he's
Yeah,
aged. Like in his 20s, he wasn't even like that great. And as he advanced into his 30s, that's when you saw like the upsurge of Nelson Cruz's career. And he's been playing his best ball in his late 30s, and which is absolutely crazy.
yeah. I just have to keep him healthy, and that's the problem with the Twins. And go right into that. Byron Buxton. He was hurt, gave the whole Twins fan base a scare, but it was just non-COVID illness,
Sickness.
stomach sickness. He is back, came in, pinch hit, and hit another home run. I think that's 3 in 4 games. So, I mean, he's something else when he's healthy, and that's the thing is, I would say he's a top 10 outfielder in the league when he's healthy. He's not a top 10 outfielder in the league right now because he hasn't stayed healthy. He's been absolutely incredible the last couple of years with the bat, and obviously he's probably the best defensive outfielder in the league. I think that's fair to say, but he just has to stay healthy, and I think he's gonna be he's incredible when he's healthy. He's
I
gaining
have
more weight,
always Yeah, he gained like 20 pounds
a
of muscle
muscle.
this off season, which is really which is like gives me hope for him staying healthy. I've always been one of the biggest Byron Buxton fans. Like Byron Buxton is so good at baseball and he's gotten better at hitting. His outfielding is obviously top notch, some of the best in the league. And yeah, it's just always been for Byron. Like he's has the potential. He's shown hot streaks that he can be a top player in this league. He just literally can't stay healthy. Like he stays healthy for like 2 weeks at a time. Like not an exaggeration, 2 weeks at a time, and then he gets hurt for months, and then he comes back for a week, and then he's out for months again. So if Byron Buxton can stay healthy this year, he is going to be our best player. I'm going to
Yeah,
say that now. He's going to be our best player, and he this might be crazy. I think he could be in MVP conversation if he stays healthy all year.
yeah, and I mean I don't think that's that crazy. Just what he does when he is healthy, he can do everything that Mike Trout does. He doesn't have obviously the eye that Mike Trout has at the plate,
Yeah.
but he hits the ball hard. He can hit home runs. He can steal bags, and he can. I mean,
Other players can't, while being able to
being able to make highlight reel, and he's a Gold Glover in the field. So I think Byron Buxton is a key player to this Minnesota Twins team. On finally breaking the streak and winning a playoff game. That's not what we're going. We're not going for the World Series this year. We're not going for a series win this year. We're going for a 1 playoff win this year. We don't care if the series ends 4-1. We get 1 win, and the Minnesota Twins fan base, are going to be so happy.
Well, we're at 17 game losing streak right now in the playoffs, which is like you can't even
I
make
think it's
that shit
18.
up. It's just crazy how like That doesn't happen because these teams that make the playoffs, these are obviously playoff level teams. So it's not like we're the worst team in the league just playing a playoff game. Like these are good teams that end up just choking in the playoffs. So absolutely crazy how that happens. Touch on literally the first inning of the year. Josh Donaldson rounding first base, pulls his hammy, goes on IL. Can we even count on Josh Donaldson playing 20 games this year? It just seems unrealistic at this point.
If we have to be optimistic about the Josh Donaldson thing, is that it wasn't his hamstring.
It wasn't. Oh no, it wasn't his calf.
Part of
his calf.
body?
His calf was what got hurt last year, and he strained his hamstring now.
So it's good and bad thing. It's a good thing that it's not the calf that's serving him displeasure, but now it's another thing that is going to be a lingering issue this year. It's because he's putting that weight more on the hamstring than the calf, so he avoids more calf injuries, and then that happens. It's looking like this deal is not going to be successful for the Twins, and I might have been alone. I didn't like this deal to begin with. I mean, I've never been a Josh Donaldson guy. I think he's past his MVP years because of these injuries, and then we sign him in the midst of these injuries. So, I mean, it wasn't the smartest thing we could have done then. I mean, but it happened, and now we have to live with it. And Josh Donaldson hopefully can stay healthy after this injury, which he won't. So, yeah,
we can just say that Josh Donaldson hasn't brought Minnesota much rain since he's been here. He brought most of his rain in the beginning and middle of his career, and since he's got to Minnesota, it's just been bringer of Donaldson into the training room to get work done. So it has not
been good. But moving on, well, the early season losses. We talk about the wins. We talk about the good things about Byron Buxton, Nelson Cruz. It's very early. We don't need to talk about losses that much. The only thing is they're blown leads in the late inning periods, blown by the bullpen. The starting pitchers have been very good, except
incredible.
For the other night. Was it Happ? J.A. Happ did not have the greatest start, but he really didn't give up that many runs, but he wasn't super sharp. But other than that, the starting pitching has been very good, but the bullpen has led up some games. So they signed some big names for the bullpen. So they did what they were supposed to do. They're just not panning out, and it's very early. It's very early.
Yeah, so as we know, the Twins bullpen has always been an issue for us. It's always been. We blame everything on the bullpen, but the Twins are literally so close to being undefeated right now. We could be 5-0, and that hurts because the bullpen has given up those runs, losing in the late innings of the game. But it's a good sign and a bad sign. It's a good sign in the fact that the Twins should be 5-0 right now. Legitimately should be 5-0, which is very exciting, and also a bad thing that like our bullpen isn't pitching well, which could lead to a lot more blown leads in the season later in the season, but and potentially into the playoffs. But yeah, right now I'm just gonna write it off as beginning of the year pitching slumps, and hopefully they can break out of playing. They're not going to play this bad the entire year. At least I hope not. But yeah, no. I think that they'll eventually figure it out and at least get to a competent pen out there. But yeah, for me, it's just the Twins have been in every single game and leading every single game and should have won every single game. So I'm not too worried about it yet. If it continues into May, maybe we start worrying about it. But at this point, we can just maybe write it off as some early season jitters. So, but I want to talk about a starting pitcher, someone that we have been hyped up about in Minnesota for quite some time, and he's always shown his stuff. Like he's always been impressive, and then every once in a while he'll just slump for a while, and you're kind of just like sitting there like, this guy's got so much potential. Why aren't things clicking? And that's Jose Berrios. So however you say it, he pitched an absolute gem the other night. Rocco took him out after, I believe, the sixth inning, pitching a no-hitter. The bullpen came in and let up only one hit after that, but he had an excellent outing. Fans are pissed that he got pulled. Potentially, he could have got the no-hitter by himself. But honestly, I'm not that mad as other people are. We've seen his pitching style. He's a pitcher who absolutely dominates in the early innings, and once you get into the later innings, he has a tendency to fall apart late. So maybe that's going into Rocco's thinking here. He's just getting the best pitching out of Rios, saving his arm a little bit, saving his pitch count, and letting the bullpen finish up a game that we probably already had. So I'm not as mad about it as everyone else is.
Well, beginning of the season, no, you can't keep him in there. You got to keep that arm. You can't be wearing out that arm this early. If this was halfway through the season, I'd want him in there. I would. If he's that dominant, you got to keep that stuff going. And the way, if the bullpen was going like it has a couple games here, I think you got to keep Barrios in there. I hate analytics. I don't mind, but baseball analytics are way over the top, and they sometimes ruin ball games. We saw that with the Tampa Bay Rays in the Super Bowl in the World Series last year. So I know he's a Rocco Baldelli is a giant analytics follower. They have their analytics team there. But yeah, speaking of Barrios' just first start, he was dominant. I hope this keeps on. I know a couple years ago, I went to opening day against, and he had a similar outing like this where he just dominated the Indians, and so he didn't have the greatest year after that. But I think what he showed the other day was just more consistent on his fastball, more consistent on his delivery. He didn't seem to lose command of anything, and that was his problem last year. I mean, he had his fastball. He lost so much command that teams were hitting 380 on it and a 60% hard hitting rate on his fastball last year. So that has to change. He needs to find the command throughout the game, and he had that on the third. So
he's always been a guy who's had like top 10.
Year.
Continue. You can say it. This is the year. What? All right. He's always been a guy who's had a potential of a top 10 pitcher. Like he's always had the potential. We've always seen it, and he's just never reached it. He always has moments where he struggles, and then he'll start struggling for a while. So if there's a guy other than Kenta on this team who can be an ace, Rios is that guy, and hopefully he can come into his own this year, and we can make a push deeper than the first round of the playoffs. So I'm excited to see what he has under his belt this year, and
just win one game.
Just win one game. That's all we really want. Each year we get into the playoffs, we win one more game, and eventually 50 years down the road, we might have a title. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he's got this year, and hopefully he can turn into another ace for Minnesota next to Kenta. So last touching point for the Twins. Should the Twins hang La Tortuga's jersey in the rafters?
I don't know how he got here, but I never want him to leave.
He is like the most
player
electric, electric player. If you don't love La Tortuga, you're not you don't like baseball at all, and you're not a Twins fan. He's potentially the coolest person that I've ever seen walk on a baseball field, other than Bartolo Colon. He's just. Yeah, I think he has like 5 hits in a row. I'm not sure if I'm right about that.
He's very fun to watch. You cut out a little bit for me.
Yeah, no, I heard that. But no, I think he's had 5 hits in a row. And he had an excellent spring training too. He had an excellent spring training, which is a good sign, because that depth on a baseball team, especially hitters, like if you can have someone come in, pinch hit late in the game that's an actual threat of getting on base or knocking in runners, that's huge for a ball team. And Astudillo could be that guy for us this year.
Yeah, he's been a guy who can hit the ball well when he needs to. And a couple of years ago when he first came up to the big leagues, he had a big streak without striking out. So he does not strike out. That's what he does well. He's obviously not going to have that 20 home run power, 15 home run power, but he's a guy who he's that utility guy that Iri Andrianza, I think that's how you pronounce it, was for the last couple years. And he can play every position. I don't think I want him in the outfield, but he can play anywhere in the infield. He played third when a couple of days ago, and obviously Donaldson got hurt first game, and I think he played third the other day too. As well as Luis Ariz, he can play anywhere along the field too, and he doesn't strike out, and he always gets on base as well.
I love Luis Arias. Like, he is so fun to watch as a hitter. Just
he
if
would have been, yeah.
He's so fun to watch. He's so much plate discipline. He never strikes out, and it seems like he always gets on base.
He's got an incredible eye for the ball, and he, say 5 to 10 years ago, he would have been a top player on the team. But obviously the home runs have taken over for the average hitters. He's probably one of the best hitters in the entire league the last couple of years, as in hitters. Like, he can hit the ball. He doesn't need to hit a home run every 5 at bats, but he can hit the ball very well.
And they finally made him the leadoff hitter, which I've been waiting for so long, because why hadn't he been the leadoff hitter? His on base percentage is crazy good, and that's what you want out of your leadoff guy. He might not have crazy speed, but you can get a guy on base to start the top of the first, top of innings. Like, Luis Arias is definitely that guy that can fit into a leadoff spot really well.
Once again, with the analytics, they want that power hitter. That's the new thing the last couple of years. They want that power hitter hitting in the number one, and that's why Max Kepler was the number one, and he did not do well.
And he strikes out half the time.
He had a horrible year last year, and it's just not how baseball should be. I mean, the Dodgers, I don't really know who their number one hitter was, but I think it was someone like, who's that? I think it's like Corey Seager, or someone who could just hit the ball. He doesn't hit a home run every other 5 at bats, but the home run ball is a little over loved in the baseball, I think, this now coming days, and the strikeouts are less hated. I think it's the best word, and I don't like that kind of baseball. But yeah, I love the players like Luis Ariz and La Tortuga, Williams Astudillo.
I want to get a Tortuga jersey because he's just a legend of the game. I'm also obsessed with just fat people that play sports, so that could go into it. But yeah, La Tortuga, absolute legend. He better be here to stay. We got a last segment here, Twitter mailbag. We got a couple questions this week. First one, sports question from Hunter. What is the worst fan base in the NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL? Jackson, I'll let you choose yours first.
Okay, so NFL, worst fan base. I think the ones we interact the most with are the Packers, and they're horrible to deal with.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the Packers, just because they're a rival, I guess. I don't know if they really are one of the worst, but
so I would say
one of the worst too.
I would add into that, if we're talking
Eagles.
Worst fan base. I was going to add the Eagles are absolute scumbags. I would even maybe rank the Eagles fans worse than the Packers fans, just because Packers fans are just idiots. Eagles fans are like absolute assholes. So like Eagles fans suck. If you're talking worst fan base, as in like numbers, like they have no fans, it's easily the Chargers. But so we're gonna go Packers, Philly, Chargers. Cowboys. Cowboys are insufferable as well. So they think CeeDee Lamb is somehow better than Justin Jefferson yet still. So, I mean,
they also think they're America's team, and
that's all you need to know.
Game in like 10 years. So,
yeah,
well, that's not true, but I don't know if it is or not.
NBA.
NBA.
Oh God.
I don't know.
Lakers fans absolutely suck. Lakers fans used to hate LeBron, like absolutely hate LeBron. Like they're the fan base, one of the fan bases. They're Kobe. They're Kobe guys in LA.
Yeah.
So LeBron came and they took a little while to warm up to him. But now like LeBron's the absolute savior of the franchise. Lakers fans are also insufferable. Literally their only go-to is coming at Kevin Durant for all the help he needs, even though LeBron James isn't even the best player on his team. Anthony Davis is better than him. So, I mean, what are we saying about LeBron there too? Like obviously LeBron needs help too. it's not Kevin Durant's fault that people want to sign with the Nets. I think it's funny because recently LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin, they both got bought out by their teams, and then they signed with the Brooklyn Nets. Before these players were bought out by their teams, NBA fans were like, oh, Blake Griffin is absolutely washed. He sucks now. Like he's not good at all. And LaMarcus Aldridge is the same way. LaMarcus Aldridge is not a good player anymore. Like he's really bad, whatever. And then they get bought out and signed by the Nets, and everyone's like, oh, how much help does Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving need and James Harden need? Like, well, they have to get all these star players, blah, 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 even though everyone was saying that they sucked like 2 years. 2 years before. Blake Griffin, Marcus Aldridge, both trash. So I'm going to say Lakers just because they're insufferable. And if they don't win a championship for 10 years, they're crying and said they've gone through the hardest times ever. So Lakers fans, because they're spoiled.
I have no idea. I don't interact with any basketball fans outside the Timberwolves. But move on to the MLB. I think another similar situation to the Packers. Maybe other fan bases don't think they're the worst, but the Chicago White Sox fans are so annoying now that they have some good players. They think they're going to win the World Series. They actually think they're going to win the World Series, and so does Vegas. They have odds on them winning the World Series too. So, White Sox fans are insufferable. Chicago fans, I hate the Bears fans too. Chicago fans are just dumb. To the Packers fans, I don't know if they're really that dumb. They're just annoying because they've had success. They just rub it in Vikings fans' faces, where Chicago Bears fans just don't know anything, and they're depressed too. So it makes sense, but they just don't know it. They think probably most of them think the redhead Andy Dalton's gonna be their answer. So, and in Chicago, they think they're winning the World Series in the south side of Chicago. That is.
I'm gonna go with whatever like side you're on. I'm gonna go with either the Yankees or the Red Sox.
Oh,
I mean, the Yankees and Red Sox fans are absolutely horrible as well. I remember Torrey Hunter came out last year and he was talking about like whenever he played at Fenway, he would get racial slurs yelled at him on the field, which is fucking terrible. But so Yankees fans are very similar to that as well. So and they also brag about their 27 rings, all that shit. So
they haven't had one in like 10 years.
Yankees fans and Red Sox fans also those East Coast sports fans, just assholes in general.
Yeah, I mean Boston fans in general aren't the most fun people to be around. They're very brutal. That's where we roll right into the NHL. I'd say Boston fans are one of the worst. I used to be a big Boston Bruins fan when they had Timmy Thomas, but NHL, I think it's obvious. It's this team right here, the Colorado Avalanche. I am not a Colorado fan. That's why I should just get rid of this hat I don't know why I wore it, but Colorado Avalanche fan are by far the dumbest people I've ever met. I mean, I don't know if it's just the ones on Twitter because I have family who's a Colorado fan and he knows quite a bit about hockey, but it's just the people I see on Twitter. They're just the beat writer for Colorado. He is so stupid. I think his name's Drager.
Was that the guy that was blocking everyone on Twitter?
Yeah, and
he got fired, didn't he?
He got fired from like CBS or something. But they're so dumb, and they're so annoying, and they constantly just talk about how good the Colorado Avalanche are. They have some vendetta against the Wild. The Wild have not done anything. They've beat them in a playoff series a couple times, but the Wild haven't done anything threatening to you. You've won a Stanley Cup. Just they don't have to be such a dick. I hate him so much.
I feel like part of that is I feel like the Wild Twitter is, or at least Minnesota sports Twitter in general, it just seems relatively young. And they're always just posting like memes at teams. And I think that just pisses a lot of people off. So that's why teams hate us so much.
Yeah, the guy is Adrian Dater. He's an absolute moron. He doesn't know anything what he's talking about. I mean, when we played the Avalanche when we were in Colorado, we scored, and there was supposedly some missed call on the Wild, but then Jared Spurgeon gets two-handed in the back, and then the guy gets the puck and scores, and he says the Wild TV is whining about the call. Oh, he's the worst. Yeah, he's been fired because he's a moron, doesn't know what he's talking about. But yeah, I think the Avalanche are by far the worst fan base. I also really, really, really hate the Islanders fan base too. But
Yeah, I have no interactions with NHL fan bases like you don't with NBA, so I wouldn't know. I just see you talking about Avalanche fans all the time, so I figured that would be your answer. We're moving to Austin's question. Another ranking things. He asked, who are the top 5 quarterbacks currently in the NFL? I think we both agree on number 1, or I would at least assume it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Obviously, the best quarterback in the NFL. He
probably
is going
of all
to.
Time.
He
be the
by
best
the
of all
time it's not that crazy to say. Obviously, Brady maybe lengthened that discrepancy with his quarterback or with his Super Bowl this year against Patrick Mahomes. But he's only like 25 years old, and he's playing some amazing ball. Already the best quarterback in the league. So
yeah,
it's number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. Number 2, who's your number 2?
So I thought about this and I can't decide. I mean, who are some names you think?
I think if you're going based off last year, I'm going Aaron Rodgers.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't want to.
I'm going Rodgers just because he has been surrounded by absolutely nothing except an offensive line his entire career.
He's the only reason the Packers are good.
And the Packers consistently are making the playoffs, consistently even getting to the NFC Championship game. They just can't get over that hump. But Aaron Rodgers is the only reason the Packers are good. If you put a mediocre quarterback on the Packers, they're winning 5 games. So I'd go Aaron Rodgers, my number 2 quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes. Number 3, okay, people are going to come at us for not having, at least, I don't know if I'm going to have Brady. I'm not going to have Brady in my top 5 of quarterbacks right now. I just don't think he is as talented as these other quarterbacks right now. I know he keeps winning Super Bowls, but just watching him, I don't believe he's as talented as these guys. Number 3, I'm going to go, man, this is tough. There's a lot of players to choose from for number 3. There's actually a lot of solid quarterbacks in the league now.
So me and you have the same first 1 and 2.
Yes. I'm going to go.
I don't think we're going to have the same 3.
This is tough. I'm going to go to Deshaun Watson. Okay. Who's your choice?
I had Russell Wilson as my 3rd best.
I was thinking Russell Wilson, but I also thought like Russell Wilson hasn't. I guess Watson hasn't either, but Wilson has been in the league longer, hasn't won an MVP. He's always had like parts of seasons where he has been the best quarterback. Like we saw that in the beginning of 2020. Russell Wilson was the best quarterback, and then he just like fell off and wasn't that great towards the end of the season. That's why I gave Watson the edge here. I just think Watson is kind of in the same scenario as Rodgers, as his team around him has been trash. His franchise absolutely trash. Fortunately, he had Hopkins for a while, which was beneficial for the development of his career. But I think last year he tried as hard as he could to carry the Texans. But I mean, it was just such a shitty franchise with no players that he couldn't get them into the playoffs. But I'm going to go 3 Deshaun Watson. But I do agree with you. There are a lot of players in that range where you could interchange them, and I'd be perfectly fine with.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 to me is just Russell Wilson. I think it's a lot of coaching that's not coaching to his strengths. I think he'd be a better quarterback without Pete Carroll as the coach. I think we're going to have flipped 4. So are you going to go with Russell Wilson at 4?
I'm between 2 guys. I'm going to go Russell Wilson at 4 just because of his Super Bowl. Obviously, he's had a lot of success. He's won the Super Bowls, and So that gives him the edge for me. So yeah, Russell Wilson 4 for me. One of the best deep balls in the NFL. Crazy. He's got the how high that ball goes into the air and just drops into the breadbasket of his receivers is one of the nicest deep balls in the NFL.
Yeah, number 4 to me is Deshaun Watson. Pretty much the same thing you said. I really last year I was thinking he was probably one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league if he wasn't out on the Texans. But it's hard to root for this guy right now. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. But if all these allegations are true, he's kind of a scumbag. But
and you can't get over this. Back to Russell Wilson. Obviously, we can't gloss over the fact that he's now a Chicago Bear. So even
yeah.
wait. No, they signed Andy Dalton. I forgot about that. So no, Russell Wilson staying in Seattle. Andy Dalton, probably better than Russell Wilson anyway, is now the starting quarterback for the Bears. So forgive me for saying that. I got a little bit mixed up because I thought they had traded for Russell Wilson. Who's your 5th best quarterback?
I was thinking Lamar Jackson.
Jared Goff. I thought you were gonna bet my guy Jared Goff.
No,
Lamar Jackson, number 5.
Yeah, I'd say Lamar Jackson. He really improved throwing this year. And if he just keeps that trajectory, he's gonna be a heck of a quarterback. If they could maybe find a wide receiver from this decade. So yeah. I'm never gonna put Josh Allen in the top 5.
Yeah, so that's my number 5. I know you hate him, but Josh Allen is my number 5. I think that he is a great dual threat quarterback early in his career. He obviously has had a lot of rushing touchdowns. He had 9 rushing touchdowns in 2020. He also threw for 4,500 yards, 42 passing touchdowns. And he's got his interceptions under control too, down to 11 in 2020. So Josh Allen has showed some Patrick Mahomes last season. And that's a really scary thought for a quarterback only in year 3. So he's got a high ceiling. And if they continue to put stuff around him, the Diggs trade was beneficial for them as it was for us. The Diggs trade helped him a lot. And I think that if he keeps improving, he could be right up there with Patrick Mahomes because he definitely has the potential to do that.
Yeah. Moving right along we have 2 more questions. Garbage Time Sports says, is the AL Central the Twins to lose? And the answer to that is yes.
Yeah. I mean, well, you said earlier, the White Sox fans would say that it is the White Sox fans would say that the World Series is theirs to lose. But the AL Central is actually off to a decent start. The Royals are going through the standings here. The Royals are 3-1, Twins 3-2, Tigers 3-2, White Sox 3-3, and then we got the Indians down at 1-3. But the Central has been shit on a little bit this year. Obviously, the White Sox have a little bit of hype. The Twins are supposed to be decent, but maybe it's biased, but I do think it's theirs to lose. I just think that the Twins, they've had good years recently, but I just, like we talked earlier about Buxton and Berrios, they've got guys that haven't reached their potential yet. And if those guys can reach their potential, this is definitely the Central as theirs to lose, as I believe they can be a very good team as long as the pitching staff continues to pitch well and our batters stay healthy, which is sometimes a big ask. But yeah, I do think that we are the most talented team in the division right now.
Yeah, the only thing how long will the starting pitching hold up? That's the only worry. I think the White Sox have the edge on the pitching over the Twins, but if Berrios can be this good all year, and Shoemaker, I mean, who knows? He hasn't pitched a full season in 5 years, so I don't see him staying healthy.
That's tough.
And then J.A. Happ as well has been very injury prone.
And he's just not good.
And he's older, and he's just not good. So, and Michael Pineda, he pitched an all right game the other day, good enough to win. So, the team is good. They hit a lot of home runs, which is very good for the regular season. They've been a very good regular season team. So, I think the White Sox won it last year in an asterisk year. So, I think this year's the Twins to lose. Speaking of the Indians, though, they are horrible. They cannot hit anything. And watching that someone like Tyler Naquin, he has 4 home runs in like 4 games, and they just let him go. They don't have any hitting. I'm not an Indians fan anymore, obviously, because Francisco Lindor is no longer on the team. You can call me a bandwagoner all you want. I'm just loyal to my man Francisco Lindor. So,
And
but
quick,
yeah,
I have to correct you on the AL Central champion. 2020, it was the Twins. So it was the Twins, and we are gonna remove that asterisk. So no asterisk here, and the Twins won. Yeah, the Twins, because it was a close race between the Twins and the White Sox at the end. Eventually, we just edged them out by a bit, because it was like that 3-way race for first. And yeah, we did win it. Unfortunately, we couldn't get anywhere in the playoffs, but we were.
Oh, yeah.
We can give
typical.
the 2020 AL Central champions to the Twins.
Okay, well, my bad. 2 more questions. Just got one in right now, right in time. But Hunter, another question. He had 2 questions last week that it was just him, so we moved him to this week. That's why he has a few more questions. But he asked, "Why are these questions? I hate these questions.
I like
What is
can't
the
answer these
spiciest
questions.
food you have ever eaten?" A jalapeno. I don't know. I've never eaten too
So
spicy of food.
I like spicy food, like slightly spicy food, but I've never like actually eaten anything that was like overly spicy. Like I haven't been like, oh, I'm gonna try this super hot pepper and see how it absolutely destroys my digestive system. I have never had anything
No, I've
spicy
never
that I
wanted to.
never wanted to eat. So yeah, I'm gonna say like a spicy food I've eaten is just a basic like spicy dish.
Yeah, and last question's another one where you know it's an interesting question, and we ask anybody, and we'll answer any question unless it's offensive. So we'll answer this one. But what's the strangest thing you have in your house? Well, I have
Strangest
one.
thing. What's you tell me? I gotta figure mine out.
Mine would have to be a machete. I think that's pretty strange.
In your house?
Yeah.
What do you use it for in your house?
Well, I got it. It was like a $5 one at Walmart, and I got it for my birthday. From some people, and so I really wanted one last year. To chop some. I probably shouldn't say this. The carps. Just chop some carp up, but it didn't work. They were not sharp enough.
I don't know if I have any like super strange things in my house. I'll go with my car. I'll go with my car. I have a pink I have a pink kitty fishing rod in my car, as well as a Scooby-Doo kitty fishing rod also in my car. And I do not own a regular fishing rod. So I would say that the weirdest thing that I have is 2 kid fishing rods in my car when I do not actually own a regular fishing rod. So that's going to be my answer.
Yeah, that's a good one. Is there any more? Nope, that looks like it is it. That was all the questions, and thank you again for everybody who asked questions. Next week we'll probably try to get it out maybe a day early so we get some more questions.
Yep.
Yeah, we went over a lot today, and we'll obviously come back next week and hopefully recap some more Wild, Timberwolves, and well, actually not hopefully Timberwolves wins, but Wild and Twins wins hopefully next week. So as always, thank you again for the questions, and as always,
you like that.
and I said as always.